Do you ever crank your sensitivity all the way up on your machine and suddenly it sounds like you're trying to communicate with UFOs? Well, that's chaos, not depth. And it's also probably not what you want to do. So today I'm going to dive into sensitivity, what sensitivity is, when to run it higher, when to run it lower, and how adjusting it can help you in the field. So as I said, today I'm going to be talking about sensitivity, and it's one of those settings, it's usually the first one that people mess with, and it's the one that's easy to get wrong too. And I know for a fact, for me, that was the first thing I messed with when I got my detector. I jacked that thing all the way up as high as it would go. And that's usually not a good thing. Whether you're trying to get more depth or chase silver or just fine tune your machine, understanding how sensitivity works can really help in your hunt. Think of sensitivity as your detector's ears. You crank it all the way up and it's going to hear everything, including the stuff you don't want to hear. EMI, ground interference, tiny flakes of metal, and even those ghost signals that sometimes pop up. So the thing is, you want to try to find that balance for the site you're on, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But let's get into some misconceptions about your sensitivity. And the first misconception is higher is better. And that's not always the case. If you've got it turned up all the way, it's going to amplify every little thing. And it could sound like you're over a minefield. And if you're on a trashy site, maxed out sensitivity is going to hinder you a lot more than it's going to help you. And people crank it up thinking they're going to get a lot more depth out of it, but what you're really getting is a lot more noise and a lot less usable signal. So here's what happens when you push sensitivity too far. First of all, the false signals, you're going to increase your chances of getting a lot of falsing. Constant chirps and beeps and all kinds of noises, that's what you're going to get with the higher sensitivity. The other thing is target masking. The good targets are going to be hidden in that noise. And again, higher sensitivity is going to amplify that sound even on those junk targets. So it's going to be a lot easier to pick those out with a lower sensitivity. And the last thing is fatigue mentally. If you have your sensitivity cranked up way too high as you're hunting, and if you're out there 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, you're gonna know it by the end of that hunt if you leave it up all the way, because your ears and your brain are going to be so fatigued from all that noise that it's going to be crazy. So that's another reason why higher isn't always better. You're constantly finding small flakes of foil and little tiny pieces of metal and a bunch of aluminum, can slaw, you name it, until your hunt's gone sideways. Bear with me right now. Everything's running against me. Traffic, trains, you name it. Okay, so here's a good way to adjust your sensitivity. I'm going to give you a little demo here on the XP Deus 2. You can see right now the detector is very chattery. Sensitivity is jacked all the way up to 99. So what you want to do is adjust that sensitivity until that detector quiets down. Right there at 83, 82. Okay, it's pretty quiet right now. I might leave it there. I might even go up one notch. So with whatever detector you're using, just start high and bring that sensitivity down until the machine is stable. It doesn't have to be totally quiet, but just stable on that ground that you're hunting on. And that's probably going to be your sweet spot for that particular site. Now let's talk about some times when you might want to lower that sensitivity, okay? One is going to be on a trashy site. You may want to lower it down so that it's not quite so noisy. The other time you might want to lower it is if you got a lot of EMI in the area. If you do a noise cancel and it doesn't help with the EMI, you probably need to drop that sensitivity just a little bit. And another situation where you might lower that sensitivity down is going to be on mineralized soil. Now, I personally don't have a huge problem with mineralized soil in my area, but I have talked to others who have hunted in mineralized soil, and it can be pretty brutal. So that's another situation where you might want to lower it down. Now, when you're going to push the limit on that and push it up as high as you can go, well, if you're on pretty quiet ground, if you're on a quiet field or there's not a lot of noise, it's not trashy, by all means, turn that sensitivity up. On that quiet ground, it's going to help you try to listen for those deeper targets. If your EMI situation's low, feel free to adjust that sensitivity and bring it up. If you're swinging slower and trying to listen carefully to the targets, maybe looking for that deep stuff, by all means raise it up, but don't raise it up so high that you're getting too much noise. Now, if you saw my video that I did on recovery speed, you know that detector settings work together. You can have your recovery speed set exactly where you want it and it's perfect for that site, but if you got that sensitivity adjusted wrong, then you could be blowing your ears up and it won't even matter what your recovery speed's set at. So the goal really isn't to max out your sensitivity. It's to find that usable sensitivity. Enough to hear what matters without getting distracted by everything else. So the next time you're tempted to crank it up all the way, just ask yourself, can I really hear better like this? Or am I just hearing a lot more junk? Now I can already see some of the rebuttals that might come in, and surely somebody's going to say, hey, if you turn that sensitivity down, you're going to miss deep targets. And maybe, but I'd rather not dig 18 inches for a pull tab or a scrap of foil. That's just me. But matter of fact, most of my good finds have been anywhere from 6 to 8 inches deep at the most. And a lot of the great finds I find are less than 6 inches. So, take that for what it's worth. Running hot might technically give you a whisper of a target at 12 to 14 inches. But at what price? You got more junk, more noise, more fatigue. If I can run smoother and hear the good stuff better, I'm all for that trade-off. So that pretty much wraps it up for this video. But drop a comment below and let me know, where do you run your sensitivity? Do you run it maxed out or do you adjust it per site? I'd love to hear your approach in the comments. And if you got a tip that works for you, drop it in the comments below and let's all learn together. And I'll see you on the next video.